Governor Charlie Crist wants a sweeping investigation of public corruption in South Florida and beyond. Where will the dirt lead? Two new polls show Governor Crist going in two different directions. What's that mean? And does a Marco Rubio straw poll win have much significance at all? All of that on Power Play this week with our guests, Catherine Dolinsky of the Tampa Tribune and Paul Fleming of Gannett News Service. So the governor says something's terribly wrong with the system, issues this broad call for a wide, sweeping investigation of public corruption. What's it going to find and how?
Well, it's an interesting move by the governor. He says that he has had to remove about 30 people from office. That's about one a month. And given that there's got to be something wrong with the system, it's hard to disagree with that, given those numbers. On the other hand, calling for a grand jury won't be looking at existing cases we know about. They'll have to come up with new ones. We don't know exactly what that's going to accomplish yet.
But how does this play with a public that on any given day is kind of upset with government and distrusting of it?
I think that's a good point, Ron, in that this is more politics than it is policy. The first thing is that the Florida Supreme Court is the one who has to impanel the statewide prosecutor, not the governor, though he has petitioned the court to do so. But you asked, how is this going to play out and what's going to come out of it? Nobody knows. That's the thing about grand juries, in essence, which is what this would be, is it's a Pandora's box. And I think Catherine is right. There's got to be a lot of public officials that are checking their backgrounds and seeing what's going to happen. Now, there are elements of this down in Broward County with recent corruption cases and federal indictments of a Hollywood eye doctor that have prompted this, but we don't know what's going to come out of it.
Well, we'll keep an eye on how that's going. Two new polls came out this past week, and they show Governor Crist's numbers going in different directions. One up there at 62 and one below 50 for the first time. Which can you believe, Paul?
Well, I think the important thing we need to do with this is look at trends in the governor's approval ratings. Indeed, I'm not dismissing the Insider Advantage poll that showed Governor Crist's approval ratings going below 50%, but it is one poll. And I think that we need to wait and see what the trend is among all polls, but also previous polls that are asking the same question over a period of time. Again, I'm not dismissing the Insider Advantage poll, but we have polls like Mason-Dixon and Quinnipiac that ask the same questions in the same way with the same methodology over time, and to look at that is going to be the important thing.
But fairly amazing, Catherine, that, you know, in the time he's been in office, we've had the worst economic crisis nationally in the lifetimes of most living people. The governor's never been blamed for that. Probably appropriately so. His numbers have stayed high.
And the Insider Advantage pollster, I believe, has said that may finally belatedly be coming to bear, even for Governor Crist. For all the talk about recovery at the national level, people in Florida aren't feeling it. Unemployment is still high. The foreclosure rate continues to barrel along. The governor is very optimistic, but you know, his sunny messages about a great day in the state of Florida may not be translating quite at home quite as well as they have before.
Well, okay, finally, we have this straw poll in Palm Beach County that Marco Rubio gets a lot of publicity about because he bests the governor in a U.S. Senate straw poll. What's the meaning of that?
It's the latest one of these instances where former Speaker Rubio has beaten the governor in straw polls at Republican executive committees. And I think what it indicates is that the folks who go to Republican executive committees, which is to say activists, those who are on both sides, extremists in those parties, favor Speaker Rubio. But I think that the important number is obviously going to come in the primary, and that's not, we're still 10 months away from that, and the real important number is $6.7 million, and that's what the governor has to spend.
That said, there is something interesting about this straw poll. I mean, there's a running debate about the significance of them because, as Paul pointed out, it's the activists, it's the hardcore conservatives that tend to come out for these. But this was the first urban county poll where the local GOP had held one of these. That's where Charlie Crist is supposed to shine, and he didn't here. The vote was almost as lopsided here as it was in the rural and small suburban counties.
Well, I kind of think Paul's got it on money talks, and in the end, if you don't have money to buy TV, you may not have much of a campaign. Let's go to your respective power plays of the week. Paul.
I'm going to go with Betty Steffens, the General Counsel for Florida State University, and her boss, President T.K. Wetherell, who this week released documents in a court case with the NCAA investigation going on of athletics. And the Tampa Tribune and my papers and television stations joined in a lawsuit to get those prized open. And it happened this week in a window where it was legal while the NCAA sought an emergency stay to block their release. So that was a great thing.
Still trying to preserve Bobby Bowden's 14 victories.
That's right.
Catherine?
I'm going to go back to former House Speaker Marco Rubio. Given the fact that he crushed Charlie Crist in Palm Beach County in a straw poll, this is starting to follow in a pattern for Rubio. His fundraising is miles behind Governor Crist, but it has taken a sharp upswing. So I think people are looking at Rubio more seriously now than perhaps they did 6 months ago.
Okay. Catherine Dolinsky, Paul Fleming, thank you both very much. For the latest political news, go to thesafetyreview.com, and we'll see you next time on Power Play.